Hey guys, Chris here, and I am a Ukrainian Canadian. Today is September 4th, 2024, and let's get to the news and updates happening in Ukraine and Russia, shall we? Before I begin, I apologize in advance because my microphone quality and my video quality isn't going to be great today. I didn't bring my equipment, I'm doing some winter projects, and so I apologize in advance. And I will certainly get back on a more regular schedule in the next few days. So, without further ado, let's begin and let's talk about some positive news. Although let's not get too excited because we know that the United States likes to delay the the delivery of weapons, but the US is very close to agreeing on providing long-range cruise missiles for Ukraine. As it says in this title, the delivery can take a few months. And the missiles in question are the older model JASSMs, which are made by Lockheed Martin. They have a range of about 230 miles or 400 kilometers. And these missiles have a very large 1,000-pound warhead, similar to the AFB bombs that Russia is currently producing and dropping as well. So they are very, very, very important for Ukraine. And also the fact that the United States has thousands of them available. So that means that they can certainly pack a big punch and have a quite large effect once Ukraine receives them, because there's a steady supply of this weapon. Now, of course, as it's been mentioned before, the Biden administration always delivers very late. They like to delay because they first allow Russia to escalate before the United States escalates. And so this is not going to be any different. I anticipate Ukraine receiving them by the end of this year and even by early next year. That's typical a typical timeline by the Biden administration whenever they announce a new weapon. So unfortunately, Ukraine isn't getting them soon, but fortunately, Ukraine is going to get them. And likely in the next few months, we'll start seeing the Ukrainians symmetrically answering back at the Russians. We already have seen, unfortunately, in the last few days, the Russians have resumed the intensity of their terrorist campaign in Ukraine. We know that fall is setting in and winter is coming as well. And so the Russians are going to be aiming at destroying the Ukrainian electricity grid, power plants, and are going to continue terrorizing civilians. And today was a very sad day because they unfortunately struck Lviv, a city that is in western Ukraine. And in the picture that you can see here on the top left, a father lost his entire family today. Three daughters and his wife perished. And just a reminder to all my viewers is that Russia is waging a genocidal war against Ukraine. They do not think in Western ways of let's maybe find some sort of compromise, let's have negotiations. Putin has brainwashed the society to believe that it's okay for them to wage terrorist operations like that and kill, hundreds and thousands of innocent civilians per year. And so Putin will continue no matter what. And it's a war of total destruction and elimination of Ukraine. And so we need to understand that making any compromise, peace deals with the Russians will bring us back in the same situation, like it happened back in 2014 and 2015 with Minsk 1 and Minsk 2. Russia is going to continue waging a war until it is stopped, until it is completely defeated. Its military is going to be annihilated and its regime also destroyed and its society reformed as well. This is also really important. The Russian society still supports this war. Don't believe that this is just Putin's war. The Russians are very much so behind it. After 2.5 years, nobody can say that, the Russians are doing everything they can to stop Putin. They are very much behind it, even for those that are against it, or I should say that are apathetic or are doing don't care about what's going on. They're very much so complacent to this. So unfortunately, the majority of Russians, whether it be 70, 80%, we don't know the real number, still support this. And so we need to understand that Ukraine needs to have these red tapes, these limitations removed by the United States and its partners like NATO, telling them that Ukraine, while you can get, let's say, the ATACMS or the scalps, but don't use them against Russian military airfields or Russian power plants. And we need to remove that entirely. How many more years are we going to be waiting until we realize we could have given that green light much earlier? So hopefully, the West wakes up, but seeing what I'm seeing, it's always going to be a delay, and they're going to let Russia escalate first. It's just the reality of things. This is why it's so important that Ukraine, as I've talked about it in my last few videos, Ukraine is building its own ballistic missiles, its own jet-powered drones, uh, where they can essentially decide. It's our weapons. We can strike them. We can use them and strike whatever we want because they're ours. And so that's really important that Ukraine becomes far more dependent and relies on itself because, as we see, the West is not willing to take that extra risk for Ukraine. It's unfortunate, but that's the truth. And so, thankfully, Ukraine is advancing towards a path where it becomes more independent. Now, let's continue with my other positive announcement today. And Ukraine has really pioneered, we already know that, but Ukraine has really pioneered the drone sector, from FPV drones to long range drones to nighttime drones with thermal imaging and other features and AI powered software and Ukrainian drones. Like, it really has innovated in the last 2.5 years and didn't have a choice. Ukraine is numerically inferior to Russia, and so it needs to really optimize the way that it wages war against Russia. And this year, Ukraine has produced close to 1 million drones, or is getting to that point, and I can only imagine that next year is going to be even more. But what is really interesting is that in the past week, Ukraine has shown some new footage of their new drones dropping in flammable substances and also thermite on Russian positions in forested areas and tree lines. As you can see here, it's kind of a drone that just goes in a straight line and just drops thermite or other flammable substances. And here you can see the aftermath where the tree line is burning out, where Russians usually build their trenches and positions, and they don't have the choice but to leave these positions. So this is a really great and excellent way of clearing up defenses and without dropping dozens of grenades and bombs on Russians, which is far more costlier compared to this. So it'll be interesting to see how Ukraine improves its future iterations. But you guys comment on the comment section what you think about these drones. I think they're pretty cool and very effective at really trying to clear out about 100 to 200 meters and softening an area before perhaps the Ukrainians go on an advance, on an offensive in a specific sector. And last but not least, let's talk about some great help from Germany. And Germany confirmed today that they've provided officially 4 more IRIS-T systems. So these are air defense systems for Ukraine. So they've provided 4 this year, and Ukraine is going to receive 2 more by the end of this year. So in total, Ukraine is going to have about 6 new IRIS-T systems in 2024 alone. And we know how important that is because Russia certainly in the winter is going to increase its missile campaign in Ukraine. It's going to really try to strike Ukraine where it hurts the most, the energy sector, and also obviously civilian buildings, hospitals, etc., shopping malls. Russians love to do that, and so IRIS-T systems are absolutely important to make sure that Ukrainian lives are protected. So big thank you to Germany, and the good news is that next year, uh, Germany is also going to provide 6 more IRIS-T systems. So in 2025, Ukraine will also receive again a similar amount of IRIS-T systems. So huge thank you to Germany. You guys are great. And let's not forget that Germany is one of the biggest supporters of Ukraine. I think the second in position behind the United States, of course. So Germany is really pulling its weight here. I know that there's always criticism against Germany that they're not providing this or that, but they're really trying to do their best to support Ukraine. And for that, the Ukrainians and myself are very grateful. So thank you. So thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this update today. It was very quick, very short, but Ukraine is getting a lot of new weaponry, and that's good. Unfortunately, it's not on a timely matter, but at least Ukraine is getting them. So with that, I'll get back to you in the next few days. Thank you so much, and Slava Ukraini!